before she signs off.
Hey, welcome to the Vacation Rental Life Show. My name is Matt Ward. I'm here with my good buddy Derek Eaton, and finally, our third compadre and partner in the business, Ronnie Bartles. Hey, welcome to the show, Ronnie.
She's muted though.
She's muted on purpose because she does not want to speak.
Oh, unmute me for a minute.
What's up?
I actually got home at a decent time today, so.
There you go. There you go.
And Wine Club got canceled.
Wine Club, Tuesday Wine Club got canceled. As you remember last week, we talked about Tuesday Wine Club. Apparently, we had more people for the Vacation Rental Roundtable tonight than Ronnie had for the Tuesday Wine Club. So that's unfortunate. And no, you are not allowed to apply to her wine club. You are stuck in the roundtable. So this week, we're going to talk about some crazy things. We're going to open it up and have a lot of discussion. But first, a quick update. If you might recall, a few weeks ago, Derek came on and he shared a little story about how there was some shysters in his building who were booking and really crazy stuff going on. And his spidey senses were up and he detected it. And then rather quickly after, there was a chargeback and police reports and all that stuff. They couldn't really do anything about it. Couldn't catch anybody in the act of committing a crime or anything like that. This week, the concierge recognized a dude coming through the door and called Derek and said, "This is the dude that was on the camera 3 weeks ago."
He's back.
The guy had rented another Airbnb in the same building.
Yep.
So update him, Derek. What happened?
Well, so that phone call came in about 10 o'clock at night, unfortunately for me, which I went ahead and then called the police to make a report and formally, because I didn't actually make a formal police report the first time because it seemed like it wasn't going to be worthwhile. So I went ahead and attempted to make a police report. Thankfully, there was or unfortunately, there's a little more civil unrest in Seattle, which distracted the police department. So then it ended up being 2:30 in the morning before they called back and said that they could send an officer. So then I made my way down there at that point. And I ended up getting somebody on the phone, an officer on the phone who took my case over the phone. And I followed their instructions, did that. So basically there was no reason for me to get out of bed and head down to the property because they weren't going to meet me anyway. So after all of that, I made my way back, sent them an email, including the video feed of who these people are and all the information, and did what I was supposed to as far as request an officer, on next shift is what the officer talked to me, plan of doing. So did that, got settled in, and about an hour later, I get woken up on my phone that the police were coming to the building and could I meet them there. So at 4:30 in the morning, I made my way back down to the building to meet the officers and deal with that. In the end, no arrests were made.
Why? Because they knocked on the door and no one opened the door.
Yeah, go figure at that hour, which is why I thought it was a complete waste of time to do it at that hour. Like, why don't we wait until, 8, 9, 10 in the morning when someone might be awake? If someone knocks on my door at 4:30 in the morning, I'm probably not going to answer it, even if someone's claiming to be the police, but,
But more importantly, the concierge checked with the current rental owner of the property that these people were renting, and they really didn't care.
Yeah, I tried to get in touch with the owner via the concierge because of confidentiality reasons. They don't want to direct me, give them their contact information, which was fine. But I said, you should give them my information and let them know they're about to have another chargeback. They're not going to get paid for this reservation. They're, who knows if they might steal something. Chances are they're also going to try and steal the keys again so that they can continue to gain access to the building. But yeah, the owner doesn't seem to care. So anyway, the guest is that. So the scheduled departure of this shady guest is tomorrow morning. So we'll see if that actually happens.
They probably already left, right?
As of last night, no, there was a lot of coming and going. The guest was a little bit different this time in that they had a kid, like I actually saw in the video feed, they were like carrying a kid with them, and had a woman that was not in any of the other previous video feeds. So that was a little bit different of a setup than last time because it seemed like it was a young gentleman and his friends that were renting the property initially.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this time it's we'll see. I guess ultimately we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see if it'll be interesting. Next week I can update on what when it ends up going down, whether the guest actually returns the keys, whether they try to, because my concern is too for my property, given that they have access, are they going to try to gain access to the unit that they rented before, given that they know where it is.
Are the police coming back tomorrow to see if they can get him?
I mean, the Seattle Police Department are kind of running on fumes in that they're working on 40% of the budget now, and they have a police chief that's retiring and all sorts of fun things politically. So I'm not holding my breath. I'm actually kind of surprised that I got a phone call that night and police officers out that night for yes, a crime in somewhat in progress, but at the same time, no life in danger or anything like that.
So that's what happened in Derek's week.
Yeah. So that was a fun night of about an hour and a half of sleep.
Nice. What happened in your week, Linda? What's going on with you and vacation rentals?
It's been really, really busy. I had a couple that wanted to have a wedding at the house and in November and booked for a lot more than I normally charge. And then they just called and said the venue that they were going to have the wedding at said they couldn't have more than 25 people and they couldn't have dancing. So they wanted to have it at the house, which didn't make me comfortable. And so I think they're canceling because now they're going to go somewhere else. So
where was this one? Which property was this?
This is in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Weddings seem to be an interesting, people are still trying to get married during COVID and they don't want to social distance at their wedding, which doesn't seem very smart. And I was thinking if I had them as guests and they had their 25 guests at the house, I probably would have COVID in the house. You have 25, 35 people there. There's probably somebody that's symptomatic, right?
Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the scary thing. So.
But if you don't have COVID, you're going to have something else. I mean, it's a wedding. You don't know what's going to happen. You're going to have broken glasses and dishes and.
Yeah.
Where would the dance floor be? In that living room, gorgeous living room of yours, or out on the deck or something?
Yes, they want to have it out in the property, in the backyard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so nervous about having weddings.
Yeah.
It's because of the booze. It's not the wedding. It's the drinking.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
If it was a Mormon wedding, you might be able to get away with it. But
that's right.
Amish wedding?
Amish, yeah.
Mormon weddings and Amish weddings only.
Yeah. Big challenges in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you got to be careful having an event. I mean, if the venue canceled on them because of limits on people, that probably means that's a government order related type thing, which means that you would also be under that same order, whether you're a venue or not. So I wouldn't mess around with that because the state of California is not messing around with how they're handling regulations and COVID, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see if for those that are in states that are more opened up right now, the next year or so, they might see an influx of bookings because of being a state that actually allows more than 25 people to get together.
So we had a 50 limit and we had a hotel with a wedding facility do a wedding party of 150 people. Made all the news channels here. It was right down the street from my house. Nowhere near Boston, right? I mean, we're an hour and a half west of Boston. So it made all the news channels. And then within 48 hours, the governor changed the policy to 25 people. And then he lowered it after that to 10. Gatherings of 10. And they increased the fines because the hotel only got fined $300. So it wasn't a deterrent.
Yeah, the cost of business.
Yeah. So one of those things, you know.
Easy to write off $300 on a $30,000 wedding.
Yeah. Cool. So what else is going on? Who's got anything else to update us on?
I just got through with like a 5-day stay, and you know the reason the Airbnb, the vacation rental, the reason why it's so freaking cool is because you have a chance to meet people, and they become friends, and like you can't do at a hotel. And I got to tell you, the 5 days that he was here, him and his girlfriend, we must have hung out every day. He bought me like me and my girlfriend a $250 dinner. And I bought him dinner, and it was unbelievable. This is a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I don't really get that opportunity because I don't live on the property, right? I remotely rent, so it's one of those things where I never really meet the guests, but I start to build a rapport with them over time.
Right. Exactly. That's the good thing about it, is the personal relationships. When you're on the property.
Yeah.
I think the best thing I've ever gotten was a T-shirt from Grand Rapids, Michigan. So a $250 dinner sounds pretty damn good.
Oh my gosh, I am not kidding. I have gifts that people leave gifts. They're all over the place. There's been really a lot of nice people, and I've made some friends that I continue to speak to.
That's cool.
I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah. One of my very first guests was from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they brought Sally and I both T-shirts from Grand Rapids. I still have the T-shirt actually, but
it's a great place to be from.
Yeah.
Is that what the T-shirt says?
No.
No, but that would be funny. That would be funny.
Ben, what's going on? Welcome to the party.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your world of vacation rentals in the last week?
Oh man, trying to do some hiring actually, and
Eric's got the same problem.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, maintenance and guest services. So trying to do that, and trying to buy a house in Austin, which has been a bit crazy. We bid on a house, and there were 27 bids in the first couple of days, and we lost that one.
Well,
And
because
so
you don't want to overbid.
25
right?
other people.
Yeah. 25 other people lost it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
My buddy Al has 6 houses in escrow this month. It's really nuts. Everybody's bidding against each other.
I need a buddy like Al.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of money.
Yeah, no, he's a realtor, and he has 6 in escrow this month.
Oh, you mean he's selling houses?
Yeah, selling houses.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
I was thinking,
he's
wow.
got 6 properties in escrow. He's making a good living for himself. So
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
he would also be a good friend to have.
Yeah, he's a good friend to have too. But I mean, the real estate market as a whole across the country is red hot. I mean, you're putting listings on, lots of open houses, a lot of showings that come through. A lot of virtual showings are happening now due to COVID, and a lot of overbids are happening. I have a Facebook friend who's a realtor with Keller Williams, KW, in Newark, Delaware, and he's been doing these Facebook Lives on the day before the property comes on the market. He goes on Facebook and he says, "Okay, we're going to list the market at say 289.9." He says, "Whoever comes closest without going over wins a prize." And he says, "Bid Tell us in the comments what you think that actual accepted price will be.
Right.
And then he gives like away a coffee mug or something. And it's kind of fun because like it's a crazy market. And so if you don't even know that market, you're just randomly punching in 15, 20,000, 25,000 above the asking price. But these things are moving off the shelf rather quickly.
I'm trying to understand why. It seems like this is happening across the whole country. I mean, maybe worldwide. Why during COVID is everybody spending money on houses?
I think there's it isn't everywhere. There's a lot of markets. Not to say that it's everywhere. I know that. Well, there's a difference between like super urban and suburban too, where like in Seattle, for example, if you're in the downtown core, you're lowering your price and good luck on selling. If you are anywhere in the neighborhoods, even in the city of Seattle, but you have a house, that's going quickly. And there even being a difference between like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath and a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Everybody that has a 1-bedroom, 1-bath wants a 2-bedroom, 1-bath so that they have a room to do Zoom and meeting in and have a workspace separate from their bedroom. So I think there's a lot of movement towards bigger properties in general. I'd say more bedrooms, having a spare office or 2 spare offices, or a walk-in closet that can be an office, or anything like that, where people are trying to kind of move away. And I think there's flights from certain cities like San Francisco. I think I'm reading a lot about rents falling through the floor and 10%, 15% drops in rental prices in San Francisco because no one needs to be in the city anymore. Everyone's leaving.
It's like the rates. They're like they're like near the 2s. A little above 2, a lot less than 3. I think driving the market as well. The mortgage brokers are just going nuts. They're hiring staff and they can't keep up with the demand.
Yeah, and a report that I listened to predicted that we might see rates as low as 1.5 before this is over, which is just mind-blowing that they could go.
I think that's going to keep the sales going for a while. I think it's going to be like this for, I don't know, several months.
Yeah. I think in certain, I completely agree. I think if you're selling something with several bedrooms, several bathrooms, there's going to be a lot of movement because people are just going to be fleeing the small places in the city and wanting to and actually being able to afford more square footage because of low interest rates and the flexibility to not have to go into the office anymore. And maybe several months of not spending much money because there wasn't anything open, and put all those things together, and people having disposable income to make on property. So
I'm seeing a lot of demand for like a house with a yard and a place to park a car, as opposed to like that downtown high-rise condo.
Yep.
And like you said, Derek, I think people are also like, home is a little bit more important since we're spending so much more time there too.
Exactly.
And,
there's a huge surge in landscape construction. The improvement of backyards, fire pits, decks, usable space outside the home due to the social distancing. It's also the reason why RVs are through the roof and on back order. So are boats, and so are side-by-side ATVs. I bought a new side-by-side ATV, and you know what? I had to order it off the truck from the manufacturer. Still not here yet.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. You can usually walk into a power sports dealer and buy one right off the floor.
Yeah.
I can't do that now. There's like I'm lucky if they have one, and it's not remotely what I want, right? And so this is the problem with the overall inventory across the board. And so when you look at the staycation idea and the issues with COVID, and nobody knows what the end of it is, well, that's one reason why we've talked in the past about the drive-to destination opportunities that exist for vacation rentals, is because people don't want to fly. But think about this for a second. Think about the people who are going to take a travel trailer, go on a road trip, pull that travel trailer, and they will stay in vacation rentals because they don't want to stay cramped packed in the travel trailer every single day. They'll take that travel trailer across the country. They'll stay in vacation rentals along the way and also on the way back. And while they're traveling, they'll stay in the travel trailer, you know? And I just think that, you know, you look at swimming pools. You can't get somebody to come to your house and give you a quote for 2 months right now. That's incredible. Like, and if I owned a swimming pool company, the first thing I would be doing is hiring everybody to go do sales. Like,
Yeah.
how do you wait 2 months to send someone out to give somebody a quote? It's incredible. And don't even ask me how I know that information.
I think I'm gonna go move to Massachusetts and start a pool business. Sorry, man. I'm out. No more vacation rental life.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Ronnie and I will carry on, no problem. Yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, the markets are crazy. I mean, I'm watching a property in my condo with HOA right now. It was listed last Friday. It's been on the market 8 days. There's an actual apartment condo down the street that sold, went under agreement and contingent within 8 days. So, you know, I expect fully that this property in my association will be under contract within 48 hours. I would be shocked if it made it to 15 days. I mean, that's unheard of in the market right now, just about wherever you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means you might want to think about leveling up. You know, if you're in your property for short money and there's a lot of profit there, maybe you can cash out, sell, take the property, take the cash, split it, and get 2 investments now. You know, I'm no investment advisor. Huh?
I said it's a great time to sell a house.
Well, yeah, and if you want to buy a piece of crap and fix it up or go back in at the low end in the right place, maybe it's the right spot. Depends on where you want to buy and where you're doing business. But, I mean, we know Boyd in Kokomo, he's been on here a number of times. He buys a bunch of properties and turns them over and then rents them. And he buys them for dirt cheap, you know? And then
I
he
could buy 10
improves them.
houses for the price
Right.
I sold mine in Seattle.
That's right. But you know what, too? In Kokomo, he was renting them for what, $89, $99 a night?
Yeah.
And how much are you getting for yours in Seattle?
Yeah. I mean, about that.
It would, about that, if not a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it only takes 2 units to beat your one.
Yeah.
But the value of his 2 units is like a tenth of the value of yours.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know other than Hawaii. Hawaii would be the worst place to own a vacation rental in the country. Seattle might be.
You hear that, Linda? Just putting you on notice, Linda. Well, I can't hear you. What?
It's an A+.
It's an A+. It is an A+. But I don't know. See, I really question the values in Hawaii. I think a lot of Hawaii is overpriced because it's an island. Everything is charged to come into it. Tourists are charged, and the housing I think is probably, you know, quite overpriced. I mean, Derek and I had a conversation about Hawaii.
Yeah.
Last summer, a year ago.
Yeah.
And you were telling me, why don't you tell everybody what you told me about the housing situation there?
Well, just it's mainly the fact that you can't in Kauai basically you can't build anything taller than a coconut tree. So that by definition puts a limit on density and housing and everything. But then you layer on top of that the limited vacation rental zones. So if you're looking at the vacation rental side, you have 3 small areas, like 1% of the island, that can be vacation rentals. And then
Tell them about the lease.
The leasehold options. Yeah. I mean, there is that too. There's land that's still owned by the New Zealand family that bought a third of the island for $50,000 back in the days of King Kamehameha, and so there's leasehold land where you don't own the property. And some of our owners of the company that I worked for, they bought leaseholds for $30,000 because it was towards the end of the leasehold period. and then that leasehold got renewed, and now they could, well, before COVID, they could sell their place for 100 or 150, and that was $30,000 furnished, all in, like including everything in it. Mind you, that furniture package had been in there since 1984 and hadn't been changed, but so
But that
not
was
ideal.
but when you told me about that, Derek, I had never heard of a leasehold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what is this? Because originally when we were talking, he's like, dude, I think you can get a leasehold for like 50 grand. I'm like, I can get a leasehold for 50 grand. And what? He's like, it's good for 20 years. And I'm like, and what? And he's like, and then you just rent. And I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he's like, well, I was wrong on my numbers. It's more like 150. And I'm like,
Well,
yeah, I'm not sure I want to be in now because after 20 years, I don't own it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you could sell it. I was like, if I could sell it and make money, I might be in.
Yeah.
But it's a leasehold. So now you got to convince somebody who may or may not know what a leasehold is to buy this thing that's not really a thing. Like, here, Ronnie, I'll sell you some air. You want to buy it? I mean, it's hard, right? But if you know what a leasehold is and you want in, you'll buy it. But if I have to convince you what it is,
yeah,
that's not going to fly.
Leaseholds are fairly common on, well, in Hawaii in general, but Kauai specifically, just because of that deal where, like I said,
So,
that
Linda's looking in Hawaii. Linda.
So I did actually investigate a leasehold this week. So that's
Yeah.
I've got one. You want it?
You do?
I bought it from Derek for 50. I'll sell it to you for 100.
Well,
No,
I think it's an interesting opportunity. So tell me what you think.
Yeah. No, I mean, so the value, when they were lower priced, so the difference between what I was telling Matt and when we started looking at the opportunity was that leasehold got renegotiated. So it was down to 11 years. And the way that contract is written is that once it gets down to 10 years, that it gets renegotiated. And it was renegotiated actually out to 30 years, which increased the value of all the properties, because then you can get a mortgage. Once it got down to under 20 years, you couldn't get a mortgage on the money. And so it was all cash deals, lowering the price. And so there's kind of an arbitrage model there where you can buy into it when it is down low and know that, yes, you may, after 10 years, not own the you basically own the contents, but that's it. Because you don't have rights to the building and the HOA.
But who negotiated the leasehold? The building management company?
So that is between the family trust. Like for any of you that watched maybe The Descendants with George Clooney, that is about this family that basically he plays the descendant of this New Zealand family that bought for, like I said, I think it was $50,000, basically a third of the island of Kauai, and also Niihau, the Forbidden Island, where only natives native Hawaiians and Polynesians can live. So that family trust renegotiates their various leases. They have all sorts of leases out there. In this particular case, the development leases and the individual HOAs. And the odd part about this specific property is that some of the HOAs are leasehold within one development, and some are purchase. So some of the individual HOA sections or buildings have already negotiated their rights from the lease and have bought it out. So that's the other arbitrage play that can come into the works, is betting on whether the HOA is going to successfully buy the rights, because once that happens, the values go through the roof, because because
there's no risk in not renegotiating at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So then a 2-bedroom 2-bath that might have been worth, let's say, 180, 300,000, some depending on the view or whatever, all of a sudden it's worth $1 million. but that depends on factors that you don't really have much control over, because that's kind of between the
No, and like anything with an HOA, everything is up in the air.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this segue.
Oh.
So my HOA has decided it's time to redo the docks, which the docks are a mess. They've had rules and regs in place that they've attempted to enforce illegally. They're not legal docks. They weren't registered. They weren't voted on properly. There's multiple sets. It's just a big mess. And so a lot of this came to a head when they tried to keep me from renting 5 years ago. And then other people have since bought and tried to rent. And then they go to them and say, you can't rent. And so they back down and don't rent. And I'm like, don't do that because you can rent. Like, the docks aren't right. The rules aren't legal. So now what they're doing is there's a committee. Now, mind you, our HOA is only 12 people. So there's a committee, and they want to change the docks. So I'm on the committee, and they're focused on the rules and regs. And we get on a call with an attorney, and we find out, and I've been working with Derek and looking at the stuff, Florida law, condo law, protects owners who, when new docks go in place, if they do not consent to the amendment of the document, they are allowed to continue to operate as they are until they sell their property. It's a law of consent. It's 719 chapter 3. So once they sell the property, then the new docks apply to the new owner. However, that same law does not apply to HOAs. And my townhome in my fourplex building is an HOA, not a condo. So I don't get that exemption, which means they're going to change the rental rules on me because I don't have the votes. However, interesting thing happened with our builder. They did a declaration of phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We have 3 buildings of 4 units each. Because that builder separated the declaration into 3 phases, the rules are written that 2/3 of the owners must vote in person, meaning you must have a notary and 2 witnesses authorize your signature on a document to change the declaration. So we have a call with the attorney, and the attorney thinks he's talking to the committee or the board, and he thinks that there's a lot of owners, not 12. Meanwhile, there's 10 of the 12, maybe 9 of the 12 owners on this call. And he says, well, no. So what you got to do is tell the owners that you just need them to sign this because it makes passing new amendments a lot easier for everybody. We don't have to physically be in person. And he says what they're going to do is they're going to ask you what rules this affects and what rules it changes and what do the rules look like. And he says, you need to tell them not to worry about that now, that when that comes, they'll have a say. He's coaching them on how to pass this declaration change. But what he's actually saying in the declaration change, I haven't seen it yet, but it looks like what it's going to read is 2/3 of duly informed but present or proxied. So here's an example. Out of 12 units, currently 8 would have to pass the thing, right? But on the new way, it would be 2/3 of the people that show up to the meeting, provided a quorum was met. A quorum, in our case, is like
25%, wasn't it?
I think it's 51%.
51%.
I think it's 51%. So you'd have to have 7 people.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of 7 would be 4, basically, if my math is right. So 4 people could pass an amendment to the declaration, which is basically your constitution for your HOA. Look at Ben. Ben's about to blow. His head's about to blow up. He's like, no way are they going to do that. Dude, that's exactly what they're trying to do, right? Here's the problem with it. You stack the board, you win. Because you can claim you mailed it, but it never showed up and you never got notice. How do you prove, right? All they have to do is say they mailed it. Oh, yeah, Derek got it. Sorry, Linda, you didn't get it in Canada. I'm so sorry. I don't know.
USPS.
Trump's mail issue, I don't know. I can't control that, right? So like for real. So we had a situation where one of our owners who was an owner for like 2 years wasn't on the board meeting call like 2 years ago. And I'm texting her, I'm like, get on the call. They're talking about you. Like, get on the call. She gets on the call and she's like, who called this board meeting? Where did this come from? Where's the notice? How come she never got notified? So you can spin the votes in your favor, especially when your numbers are that low. When it's a bigger complex, it's a lot harder to do that. Luckily in our situation, what they need in order to make that change is they need 3 of every 4 owners in each building to approve that change. That woman who wasn't invited on that call is in building 1. I'm in building 2. We have a unit in building 1 that is in collections and doesn't respond to anything, so they're not going to vote. So phase 1 won't pass. And phase 2, I'm going to throw a stink and start causing problems, and I'm not going to sign it.
You need to start sending those 5-pound chocolate bars to everyone.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, for real.
Their property values will go down if they pass.
Well, so I claimed that on the last call, right? That property values are higher for units that can rent. And a guy from Canada was like, well, no, I've seen articles the other way too, that people don't want to live in an Airbnb community. And they keep calling it a Holiday Inn. We don't want this to be a Holiday Inn. They literally want to pass a rule that says once a current owner of the 12, once that person sells to a new owner, the new owner cannot rent at all. Like at all, like even long-term.
Yeah.
Even long-term. Even they go in the hospital or they go in a nursing home, they can't rent the property out. What?
Yeah.
These people are cray.
Yeah.
So I got to deal with that. I've been dealing with that. And so.
I mean,
I was just going to say, I've been fighting with an HOA in Columbus. I used to live in the property and now I don't. And I've been, of course, Airbnb-ing it. It's a 4-unit HOA. So it's my neighbor is the president. There's 2 other owners. And I Airbnb'd my neighbor's unit. He wanted us to do that. So we were doing Airbnb in 2 of the 4. And
so
then
50%.
50%, right? And but literally during the virus, the neighbor behind me really freaked out about it and just like tried to do everything he could to shut it down. So long story short, we've closed down my neighbor's unit and I'm selling our unit. I'm done with HOAs. I'm done with other people having control over, my property, my business, and I'm just focusing on like things that are not in HOAs is
Like,
what I can try to do.
I appreciate the action that you've taken there, but it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because like I told this lady on the phone, she's like, every rule that came out for me, we just abided by. We just didn't know that they were in existence. I go, listen, they've known these rules were illegal for a long time and they're trying to enforce them with you. What do you think they're going to do next after they get your vote on this amendment thing? They're going to go change the rules against you.
Yeah.
And that's what they're due. And she's like, well, and I go, you need to stand up to these people. I'm the only one that stands up to these people. And furthermore, here's the thing that really gets my goat. I have a Florida short-term rental license. I hang it in my property. I pay my 5% tourist development tax. I pay my 6% sales tax, and I pay my income tax, right? Florida doesn't have one, but paid it in Massachusetts, right? These people are renting their property and they're not doing that. They're illegally renting their properties and they're not. I told them, I said, I'm throwing you all under the bus. I'm calling the Department of Revenue. I'm reporting all of you. You can't have it both ways, And so the problem is most people don't stand up to these people, and they're like, oh, they pay their taxes when they file, their tax at the end of the year. I'm like, yeah, that's not how this works. You need to pay 11% on every stay. You need to have a license to rent your property. it's so bizarre to me because every rule that they want is a retaliation rule, you know? So like they're putting rules in, and I said to them, is there a rule? Why don't we have a rule that says you can't hit, turn the common area into a putting green or hit golf balls over the hedges on the golf course? Because that's absurd. We don't need rules for things that don't happen. So when you were fighting with them, Ben, did you get anywhere with it, or did you just throw up your hands and were like, I'm done?
No, I mean, I as well have a license to run a short-term rental, and I have an attorney who looked over the docs before I bought the property. There's there's no restrictions on rentals, especially no like short-term rentals. So I feel confident that, I'm not doing anything wrong. But I really just, this guy who's the president, even this week, threatened to go pound on the door if he ever sees any Airbnb guests in my unit beyond, September 1st. He's given me this deadline. And I've got more things to do in my life than deal with threats from this guy. So the market's good, and it was a good time to sell. And
But
I'm just.
Do the people want to rent you're selling it to?
I would tell that guy, well, then I will gladly call the police and have you arrested for disturbing my peace, and
Yeah.
have the police talk to you about that. So.
I mean, are you going to be able to sell it? Do the people want a short-term rent it that you're selling it to?
He's a short-term rental host, but he's going to live there. So I said, good luck. There you go.
Did you tell him about the guy?
Yeah, they've talked. And no, I honestly think he will live there. He's going to rent the unit he's moving out of, and
and then
it's only 4 units.
Shared rooms.
I think the idea is that eventually this guy will sell. He's been there for like 10 years, and when that happens, I think the highest and best use of that property is short-term rentals. Kind of as you've talked about, it's more valuable. But
it's crazy to me because it's always the folks with the NIMBYs, disturbing my peace, this and that. The only time we've ever had problems with our rental, with our guests and owners of the property is when we rent to families with teenage kids who go in the pool, and these owners don't like it. They don't like the noise. They don't like the quote unquote disruption. It's a quiet pool otherwise every other week out of the year
until their grandkids come.
Yeah. So I said, fine, I'm just gonna rent it to an annual, a single mom with like 4 kids. It's piss you off, But it's problematic, and I'm at the point now where I kind of feel the same way too, Ben. I just want to fight them to win and then list it and leave,
Sell it to a.
But I think I can stall with the way the votes read and everything, and the problems I can explain to people that this creates by what they're doing. I can ultimately stall, and I'm not going to vote for it anyway. So they need to make sure that they have 3 other people in my building to vote for that amendment to pass. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And hopefully those votes have deadlines on them. But they want us to go in person here where we live: Wisconsin, Michigan, Chicago, here, Canada. They want us to go in person and get a notary signed paper with 2 witnesses that we pay for, because we're not at the property in Florida. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I'll just keep throwing up objection after objection, and I'll delay. That's the only thing.
If they're smart, they would pay for an online, because I've heard that the notaries have gone online in some jurisdictions. Like, I don't know, Florida's one of them, like have a Zoom meeting where you hold up your ID and like prove that you are who you are and your vote and do it.
Let me tell you what, here's another thing, right? Rules and regs, right? So the attorney did validate one thing. The 3 things people fight over in HOAs and condos are parking, pets, and leasing. Those are the 3 things. And those are the 3 things that they want rules about, right? So with regard to parking, we have small parking lots. We have, each unit has a deeded parking space, an assigned parking space. It's 1 parking space that's assigned, and then we have guest spaces. And so the rules are written that each unit gets 1 assigned parking space, and all guests and visitors should park in guest and visitor spaces, right? It says nothing about how many cars you may own. They are trying to create a rule that says you can only have one car parked in the parking lot at any time. And they're doing it because a couple that lives there that they have a problem with has 2 cars. It's just absurd to me. It's the retaliation stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I did the good fight against my HOA in year 1 of owning my vacation rental. So for anybody that's doing it, keep it up. And, it was much along the lines of what Matt is discussing. The only advantage I had is that and this was part of the research that I did on the due diligence of buying in the building, it was renting for any length of time was specifically listed as a permitted use. And because of that, in Washington state condo law, that means that it took 90% and any and all people it would affect in order to change the rule. It basically makes it a bulletproof statement as long as someone in the building is renting on a short-term basis. So, because no one's going to vote against themselves. In Matt's case, if he had that same law in effect in Florida, he wouldn't vote for it, and therefore it would die. And even if 11 of the other 12 people voted for it, because it was
a loot, something like that. Let me guess what happened again. I'm guessing. Oh, he's back.
I'm allowed to work.
Hello, Derek.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
You disappeared for a minute. You froze.
Oh, I think.
So anyway, your point was even if 11 of 12 people voted for it.
So yeah, if 11 out of 12 people voted for passing the rules in your case, Matt, if you voted against it in Washington state, you would win if it was listed as a permitted use.
Wow.
So that makes it
Linda, I've been involved in condos, never HOAs, but condos for a very long time in Massachusetts. Did not realize that HOAs were, at the time I bought my property, I didn't realize we were an HOA. I thought we were a condo in Florida because it's a townhome. So I just assumed when they said association, it was a condo association, but it's not. So when you're getting that property in Hawaii, I mean, fine tooth comb, pen, red ink, go over those docs one by one by one. Be very careful. You definitely want like high percentage votes required on certain things,
The nice thing about Princeville is it's designated vacational zone.
One of the AOAO Master Development Corporation, which in Princeville, where Linda's thinking about that entire development, it's listed as permitted, and then each condo development is under that. So there's a whole nother layer, Matt, that you don't have in your situation, because there's a master association even above the individual condo association. And so all of those allow for it, including the tax code in Kauai, where it says Princeville, as it has street designation as far as where you're allowed to rent for less than 6 months is what's defined as short term in Kauai, is anything under 6 months. And so if you rent to somebody for 3 months, you have to collect sales and TAT tax on Kauai, whereas other states, Washington state, that's 30 days. Most states, I would say, are probably 30 days. I don't know.
Florida's 6 months.
It is 6 months in Florida. Okay, so yeah, so that I guess makes sense. They do that so that the snowbirds can, if they stay for only 5 months, they get the tax money.
Yep. It's crazy times, guys. I wish I didn't have to deal with it, that's for sure. But
hey, just to change the subject, I don't know if you remember, but I was trying to get my money back from Airbnb, because remember the guy, one of the guests said I don't have any hot water, and they made me refund him. So I brought it up again to them, and they're not giving me any of my money back. They believed that that guy was inconvenienced by not having hot water. So it was my word against his, and they took his word for it that there wasn't any hot water. But yet, my guest before him and my 2 guests after him, plus the house, has never been out of hot water.
Yeah. The only potential advice, you're definitely working uphill in my experience on that, but my only potential advice when trying to fight that would be to get like an InstaPen thermometer, one of those cooking thermometers, and take a picture. And if you had to have somebody help you, take a picture of you showing that the water is hot coming out of the faucet and making sure that it lines up perfectly with your advertising photo, so that they could tell, yes, this is the photo of the shower or whatever he said didn't have hot water. That'd be the only way to potentially maybe get air.
How long was his stay, Zach?
It was 2 days into the 7, and they made me refund not only even the days that he was there, because he was inconvenienced. It was an outright 100% complete lie.
Why did he leave then?
When he was talking to me, he said that
this was the COVID guy that left because your girlfriend had...
No, this is another guy. Yeah, this is a guy that's a host of, has a house in Vegas, showed me his calendar, booked 365 days a year, told me that he hates Airbnb because of the refund policy, and that he is a VRBO guy, and he used it against me. And
did he tell you that before he rented?
No, he told me when he told me he's leaving. We had a conversation about it, and he told me that he already booked. I told him that, what are you talking about? There's hot water here, He goes, well, at least it wasn't the first 2 days we're here. And I go, you should stay or whatever. I told him, he goes, look, we got a place at the Marriott in Del Mar, and it is actually less expensive than here. And we're just going to go. And then that was it.
This is one of the things we've talked about time and time and time again with Airbnb.
Yeah.
If you're going to hang your hat on Airbnb for bookings, you got to hang your hat on Airbnb for the fraud that happens all the time, the refunds, the crap that they put up with.
Right.
And look, at the end of the day, while it sucks to have them not give you that money and them to take the 2 days away or whatever it was, at the end of the day, so many other listings you wouldn't even have if you didn't have it on Airbnb.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean,
It's the trade-off, right? It's the evil side of the coin. And it's why we talk a lot about using listing sites and platforms to move your clients off into direct bookings as best and quick as possible.
Yeah.
Building email lists, getting text messages, Facebook, everything like that.
Yeah, and so Zach, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. In fact, I posted today in the Facebook group that Facebook was, or that Airbnb, when I signed in today, notified me that congratulations on your 6,000th Airbnb booking. But the reality is, even with that, I would run into potentially the exact same issue that you did for that specific thing, saying no hot water, no electricity. There's certain threshold of things that Airbnb considers non-starters, where if you aren't supplying those things, that the guest gets a full refund.
And he knows it.
Yeah.
Because that wording he used with you, Zach, I don't like their refund policy because he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yep.
Yeah, he got me. And I told Airbnb that. I said, this guy told me exactly the reason why. I said, he's one of your hosts, and he was
But
a
he
nice
might,
guy.
he might not be a host, right? I mean, he might have just showed you a listing.
That could have been.
Yeah.
That could have been. He talked like he knew what he was talking about, though.
Yeah.
I mean, who is it we were talking? Was it you, Derek? We were talking about the people, like all the red flags that you get when people call and they start asking questions.
Yeah. There's red flags that you can, one of my favorite red flags is someone telling me that they're a super host. That in itself, hosting other super hosts, just it's always bad news.
Ben was shaking his head too.
Yeah.
Really?
Wait, you're not on, Ben.
Yeah.
They have
He's
high
not-
expectations.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not just high expectations. I think the problem is it's.
I just said they have high expectations.
Yeah, but it. Oh, you're cutting out too.
No, he said high expectations, but I think it's more than high expectations.
Well,
I think it's this righteous badge of super host. It's like, I'm Superman, I'm Superwoman, I'm super host.
Well, it's that, but I think the reality is there's different ways to be a super host. Like I'm my company is super host status in Seattle, and we have 40 plus properties, and our version of how we achieve that is totally different than how Ben might be doing it in Columbus, and how Linda does it with her properties. Everyone has their own way to go about providing excellent customer service, and then some super hosts think that because someone's not doing it exactly the way that they're doing it, that they're doing it wrong, and that isn't really the case. Like, there's lots of ways to exceed somebody's expectations, or just to meet someone's expectations. Not everyone has to provide a bottle of wine to every single guest. My Kauai company did that. That was one of their tactics. I don't do that in Seattle, but do surprise guests with bottles of champagne if they tell me that they're here for a birthday or anniversary or some other special event. There's different ways to go about doing that. I like to surprise people with personalized recommendations of where to eat and where to go and how to have a good time in Seattle. There's lots of different flavors, but yeah, the judgmental superhost is the worst the worst guest to have. It's a challenge. So Ben, do you try and turn away super hosts that try and save your property?
If they're talking like super host, or like, here's how long I've done hosting, it is a red flag. I don't know if I turn them away per se, but I put on the seatbelt and get ready for the ride.
So if I ever come to Columbus, I won't mention my company or that I'm a super host, that I've been hosting for 13 years.
I'm Derek Eaton, and I'm new to Airbnb.
Yeah.
You know what I say? I say that I'm a short-term rental owner. I never say, we just got back on Airbnb, so I don't really have super host status.
Yeah.
Although I could just claim it, put it on the photos or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just say that I understand the industry, and I appreciate the short-term rental market, and I want to use short-term when I can. But then I can't tell you how many times I've been utterly disappointed.
Oh.
I told you about that time in Philly, right?
I'm not sure.
Where the TV in the living room was internet TV only, and the bedrooms didn't have TVs.
Yeah.
And it was in the inner city, and there was a lot of street noise all night long, and I was not used to that. Like, I had trouble sleeping. They had a cool rooftop. And that was like the whole feature of the Airbnb place, was this rooftop that everybody could sit on and stuff. So you thought it was all great and everything, but yeah, you don't go on the rooftop at night. Bad idea.
I
So,
find it very rare that anybody offers cable TV anymore. I haven't found.
I offer it in my unit.
But I don't know. Having looked at other units, does anybody else offer cable TV? Just curious.
Well, so to be honest with you, this is one of the reasons why I default to a hotel sometimes. I can't find one. So Ben, do you have cable TV in your properties?
Matt, I know this is like a standard for you, but I got to be honest with you. In my 65 properties, there is 0 cable TV. It's
Oh my God.
complete internet-only TV.
YouTube TV.
Yeah, there's.
And Do you do that? Do you subscribe to that?
Honestly, we started with Netflix and Hulu and provided that, but in the last like year, I've stopped, and it hasn't affected our occupancy that I can tell. So no, I don't even provide that. It's like sign into your own account. You know, honestly, most people just have a Netflix account or have access to it anyway, and there's a handful. Oh, the other thing we do is like antenna for live TV on like, you know, the free broadcast channels.
Yeah, but the nice thing about YouTube TV, and I know Matt hates this idea, so he'll shoot this down because he wouldn't be a fan. But with the YouTube TV, you're able to set up 6 sub accounts under one master account, as long as YouTube doesn't catch this, since this is going on YouTube at some point. So I probably just ruined it for everybody. But so hypothetically, I've set up our condos so that 6 condos share one package, and each condo has up to 3 TVs in it. So I have 18 devices potentially signed up. You know, mind you, not every unit is going to be signed in on all 3 TVs at the same time. Not everyone's going to be trying to stream at the same time, but under one account. So that's $65 a month for 18 TVs or 6 condos worth of cable. And that provides them their local channels, CNN. It gives them 70 channels to choose from. It's a pretty sweet way to kind of meet both ways. Cause I think like I agree with you, Ben, in general. I think there's enough critical mass of people that have their own streaming services now that you're probably not going to piss too many people off to not have anything available to them. But once like the Olympics come on, or once major sports start happening again, whenever that might be, you know, when we have more than just curling and you know, the what is it, the American Cornhole Championships that have been on ESPN2 recently. You know, that.
So
that
Derek,
is,
I have Netflix and I have Hulu,
mm-hmm.
and I made the change at COVID.
Yeah.
Cut my cable package down to basic, and increase those. So I have Prime. I watch Prime Video. I watch Hulu and Netflix. And let me tell you, there are times that I am more bored than ever now watching TV, right? So I even subscribe to Philo and a couple other things. It's that local programming. And I know you said you can get it. Here's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. YouTube TV. I got ABC, NBC, CBS.
Well, I think what's going to have to happen is we're going to have Derek do a screen share thing of how this whole thing works, so that and we'll put it in the group at some point. Because I think people can't get their head around how it actually works to even consider the change.
It works the exact same as your Comcast, your Spectrum, your Time Warner cable. It's exactly the same, except it's coming through the internet.
I don't believe you. And neither does Linda Nealon.
Hey,
because look at her. She's like,
I know. I love having my ultimate cable package.
I know.
Oh, and with the YouTube TV, if you want to pay more to get more channels, you can. I just don't. Like they have steps where you can, you know, if you want all the HBOs, you can pay for that. You want all the.
So, I don't know. Maybe someday you'll convince me, but right now, not happening.
So, is there anything that you're lacking with YouTube TV in comparison to cable ultimate package?
No, I mean there really isn't. Like,
well, there are times, Derek. There are times when I go to add a channel on my Roku, and it says you need to activate it,
mm-hmm.
and so you have to choose your cable subscription and sign in. Is there an option there for YouTube TV?
Yeah, that's what I've already loaded YouTube TV into all the TVs. I've had to have it signed in. So the only issue I can potentially have is if someone signs out of the YouTube TV channel.
But I'm referring to the fact of on a Roku, when I add the Roku channel to my Roku, it makes me activate it using my cable package. It wants to know that I'm already paying for the channel.
So this is totally different than that. YouTube TV is its own channel within Roku. And once you sign into it, runs just like your Time Warner package or your Xfinity package. You can choose which local station
Time
to
out.
watch.
Time out.
Yep.
Next Tuesday night, this roundtable is going to be a full-on demo of YouTube TV.
There we go.
Okay, you'll do screen shares.
Sure.
And we'll figure out the logistics of whether or not it works on a TV or we'll just do it on the desktop. We'll figure out how all that works.
Yeah.
Love
we'll
it.
figure out all the logistics.
What's
that?
I wish I could get commission for selling YouTube TV.
Oh, stop. Linda, what did you say?
What does it cost per month to have YouTube?
$65. So I have 6 properties paying $65.
Wow, that's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I could get it for here
And
then put it down there.
yeah, but
And instead of paying $300 and something, but what?
the only
Look at Ronnie. She's dying over there, Ronnie.
The only buts is, so in your case,
It'll give them the Boston channels.
well, that's the thing. You have to decide which area. In my case, I use this to my advantage in Hawaii because I can sign in Hawaii.
Watch the sports games
and I can watch my Seahawks every single game, whereas they may only be on national television, 3 or 4 games out of the season. So I subscribe via my vacation rentals basically and have that vacation rental network. And as long as those stay signed in, I don't run into a problem, or I can use a VPN to.
And do you use YouTube TV?
Yeah, not only do I.
No, I said Ben.
Oh, Ben.
No, I don't. No.
But he's
Not yet.
He's
Maybe
going
after
to once I've
Tuesday.
shown how
Yeah,
well it
after
works.
Tuesday.
Yeah, after Tuesday.
Because he's like paying attention. He's like, wait a second, did I just hear 65 divided by 6?
Yeah, so
that's like
Derek,
$10.
what happens if they all watch them at the same time? Nobody gets kicked off?
I have not had that happen. Yep.
Well, on Friday, aren't you completely booked?
Yeah.
So he'll find out this weekend.
There you go.
Well, that's if everybody's watching. I mean, that's the thing. Like, is everyone even sitting at home watching TV at the same time?
Yeah, but it would be different for me and my rental, right? My rental goes on, but I'm on here, and boom, we kick each other off. That would
No.
be a huge issue.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's never. I've been running this test for more than a year now. So I did start soft and try a few units just to see how this would work, and it's gone flawlessly for more than a year
This
now.
is like the hack of the sensory.
And so now I'm getting everybody to drop.
So
their
the
cable
problem with
package.
Linda is she's
Get their
in.
cable package and drop. So increasing their internet speed, dropping their cable package.
Linda's in Canada. She manages a property in Maine.
Yep.
Got a property in Tahoe. Looking at
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yep.
What does she put on YouTube TV?
Well, she'd have to decide where she wanted her home. Did she want her home service to be in Tahoe, in Maine, or Hawaii? And then she would get the local broadcast.
Bro, she's got to be in Canada because of hockey night. Hello.
Right.
Well, but I don't know if YouTube TV is available in Canada.
Oh, it's YouTube.ca.
Yeah, YouTubeTV.ca. I don't know if that exists yet. So I mean,
Sadly, Linda, this just went to 65 times 4 for you.
yeah. Or she may not be able to get it at all in Canada.
But still, $65, still way cheaper than. Actually, for you in Canada, it'd be $85, I think.
Yeah, $90, 90 Canadian
It's
dollars.
still cheaper than your cable packet. How much do you pay for your cable in Canada?
I think it's 120, 140.
Oh, that's cheap for full package. My cable package here in Massachusetts, cable internet, a ton of channels. We had the max package except for we had everything. It was like $280 a month. And we cut it all the way down to $150, but we increased the internet all the way up to the highest band. And then went down to the base package. And then of course we had all the streaming services additional. So
Yeah,
I love
Matt,
the
I'll-
idea of having one.
Matt, I'll give you a password for my YouTube TV, and you can sign into it. And
I'm
try it
gonna
out.
log in right now.
And And
You know, put it on my vacation rental in Florida. They can watch the Seahawks.
watch a real football team versus, you know,
I need to get it in. Hey, I
some
need to
team
get
in
it.
Massachusetts that doesn't have a QB anymore.
Oh, stop. Just because he's in Tampa. He's on vacation in Tampa for a year. Don't worry about it. Then he's retiring. They're not even going to play a season. Whatever.
So
Such a joke. They're going to cancel baseball soon. Hockey's a train wreck.
So do the balls deflate more in the heat and humidity versus?
Really? Really? You think Deflategate jokes are funny right now? I was at that game, mind you. It was cold as hell.
So it was temperature related.
Yes.
The fact that it was cold. So the
Yes.
balls aren't going to deflate in Florida.
No.
All right.
No. How would you even know that?
Hey, Matt, what do you think of, Belichick and Brady? Is in Boston, is there like is people picking sides?
Yeah, they hate Brady now.
Is that right?
Well, they don't hate him. We loaned him out for a year. It's no big deal.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's no big deal. Listen, here's the deal. The two of them aren't going to retire at the same time because neither one of them want to go into the Hall of Fame with the other guy in the same year. That's always going to happen 5 years after either one of them retires. That's a guaranteed shoo-in. Second thing, both of them need to prove that they can do it without each other.
Right.
That's what this is all about. So
Yeah.
Good luck to Tom Brady. Gronk's a bastard. And he came back. He took a year off. He's broken anyway. His back will be broken by the end of the year. He's a train wreck. And he'll go play for Tom, and then he'll go across the middle and lose 4 ribs, whatever. And then, I don't know. I mean, they're playing in the heat, so maybe that's better for them. I don't know. They're old.
They're old bones. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
They just announced today in Massachusetts, though, that no fans can go month of September, can't go to Fenway Park and can't go to Patriot Place. So that's, they had cut down the fan count to 25% for the Patriots, but now they're saying all of September they're not allowed to go. They're not allowed to have any fans. They just announced that today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So our governor's going to have a hard time getting reelected. He's a train wreck, too.
Yeah. Have they done that to hockey yet, Matt?
Hockey's up in Toronto, and our goalie just quit yesterday. Like in the middle of the playoff run. Come on, Tuca. What are you doing? I get it. Family's more important. So he went home due to COVID.
Yeah.
So we were the leader for the Stanley Cup before COVID hit. And we ain't going nowhere. It's all over. We're in a Title Town has fallen this year, just like every other time. I'd be shocked if baseball makes it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Baseball's falling apart. Hockey's falling apart. Basketball. Who wants
College football
football's a
good.
train wreck. They're done. They're
done.
They're having a spring season. Oh yeah, sure they are.
Yeah.
Sure. Like the high school sports are done. They're like gonna run cross country. Woo, yeah, let's cheer for cross country.
Like I said, we have the American Cornhole League on ESPN2 now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's wrap it up. Hey, good news is we're going to have a demo next Tuesday regarding YouTube TV. Thanks to Derek and volunteering for that. I mean, he was voluntold, but that's how it goes. Welcome to the party. I'd like to welcome all our first-time guests. Joe Hines, thanks for coming on. Ronnie Bartles, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Touche. And that's it for this week. Derek, sign us off. Don't forget.
Yeah. Don't forget to work smart, not hard, and live your vacation rental life.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Take care.